So welcome in. I'm Bryan Harold, Fabulous Mountain Lion, the incoming chair for MKP USA. I want to welcome you all to this town hall tonight. And men are coming in as well. Welcome all. Tonight we've got a great opportunity to hear about a training that was developed to deal with these uncertain times and to see what we can do to increase enrollment as we move forward in the future. So with that brief amount of teaser, I want to introduce Elliot Bull, who's the chair of the Elder Society in MKP. Elliot, could you give us a blessing?
Thank you, Bryan. It's my honor. So men, this is an opportunity to take a breath and step away from the everyday chaos of life, the disruptions, the joys, everything that we go through, and really listen to and appreciate the amazing amount of work that has been done and the men who've done that work so that we can adapt to the way life has changed for all of us. So just ask that we sit quiet for a moment, prepare ourselves, bring ourselves to a place where we're present so that we can enjoy, respect, and appreciate what we're about to hear tonight.
Thank you, Elliot. I think I want to turn it over to Boysen, our communications director, and a man very key to all the online offerings that the project is in the midst of, to talk a bit about how this is placed into the curriculum and to introduce our speaker tonight. So Boysen.
Thank you, Bryan. Hey guys. So what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the men's work CROSSROADS. Over 2 years ago now, we introduced a program in MKP USA simply called the Men's Work, now called the Men's Work Intro, which is a 3-week program that introduces guys to some basic concepts of sitting in circle, of being with each other, of getting a handle on what it's like to do men's work. We talk about emotions, we talk about communication, we talk a little bit about accountability, we frame setting ground rules in a container, we build connection between the guys. So in March, when all of this started happening, when COVID came along, we started rethinking, okay, now what? What can we do? How can we build on the online experience and roll out curriculum to create a new way of moving into the Mankind Project through, an online open men's circle or the Men's Work 3-week intro course. And at that point, David Kaar, who was in the room, often referred to as the fourth founder by Tosi and Kauth, brought together a very large group of men, and I'll let him tell you more about that when he comes on. But of the guys that are sitting in the room right now, 5 times 5, 25, 30 guys sitting in the room, how many of you actually worked on the CROSSROADS? Hands? Yeah, so there's like 10 guys in the room, close to 10 guys in the room who actually spent time and put energy into building this program. So this is part of the way of bringing men through the flow of introduction to the work, so that in 2021, when we have 2 vaccines rolling out and the virus is getting pushed back and we start rescheduling NWTAs, we will have a large group of men who have been sitting in circle, have experience with circle, understand what we're doing. Some of them have gone through this CROSSROADS process, and they will be itching to get themselves through the door and onto the carpet with us. So with that brief introduction, David is here with Michael Pierce and Matt Kelly. Matt and Michael have been teaching the CROSSROADS process, and I'm going to hand it over to David Kaar to introduce us. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I want to give you a little background of, who was in the room when it happened and how they got there and how we got started. Michael and Matt are going to tell you about the nuts and bolts of the CROSSROAD process. And then, or training course, online course. And then I'm going to come back and talk about where we might be going with more online stuff. So the CROSSROADS is the first of what we think will be a series or a suite of trainings. So yeah, it was about, I think March, maybe late March, early April. Bryan Harold called and said, we've been doing the men's work. We got all these guys who are queued up to go to the warrior training. We've shut down the warrior trainings. Do you think you could pull together some guys to design something so they had something to do, so we could offer something to them? And I was essentially retired from MKP at that point, but I said, sure, that sounds like something one really shouldn't do around here. So I decided to go off on an adventure into the forest. I posted to the Leader Talk, hey, what if we can't do warrior trainings for 18 months? What then? Who wants to talk about that, think about what we might do, how we might continue to serve men in the meantime? There were 40 men answered that, and 20 signed up for serious work. And several are on the call here. And we did stuff besides design the training. There was a core group of about 10 on the process design team that Michael and Matt led. But Frank Devon is here. He worked on marketing. David McLean is here. He worked on platforms. How are we going to offer these things in the future? Are we going to forever be married to Zoom, or is there something better we can use? So there was, like, say, 20 guys who, in fact, Michael, do you have that Jamboard thing? Can you share that? Or
I do. If I could get a share of the screen, I'll pop it up there.
Yeah, can somebody let Michael share the screen? It's got, I'd really like to put everybody's name out so you can see them all.
And okay, thank you.
Right now.
Thank you very much. And we referred to the mess that we stepped into as being in the sausage factory. And well, it wasn't always that pretty, but the essence of it, the men in the orange there, that was the what you call it, the core design team, David and Matt.
Yes. Yeah.
Other men around there were men that contributed on some level at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Vince. Yeah. So those are the guys. We couldn't have done it without that, and it was really all giveaway. Everybody did that as giveaway, and I particularly want to mention Mark and Matt, Mark Davids, Robert Dan, Randy Marks, Brian Gass, David Collins from South Africa, Jonathan Pilgrim, Michael and Matt, David Fenn, Jim Holohan. That was the core team that did the heavy lifting for, God, 5-6 months. We spent hundreds of hours working on it. And that produced CROSSROADS. So now we have something to offer the men who are waiting to do the warrior training, and they can do that. And it's particularly designed for new men who've done the new men's introduction, the 3-week thing, or who've been sitting in an I group for a while, who kind of understand about check-ins and I statements and feelings. It's designed for them. Eventually we hope to have enough instructors we can offer it to everybody in MKP, because the alpha test was MKP men and they all got a lot out of it. And we like to, but at first it was designed for, we want to offer it to new men. And so I'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. But Michael, Matt, tell them about CROSSROADS, please.
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for showing up. many of you know a ton about Crossroads. Some of you experienced the alpha version, and ultimately, much like having done the NWTA, the next NWTA isn't for you. So Crossroads wasn't designed for new warriors. It was designed for men who have not yet done the NWTA. Boysen talked a little bit about the men's work 3 week. Some 900 men have done that. 4 and 5 cohorts a month are going off of that training. That's 14 men per cohort, with a couple of facilitators. So there's a large group of men who haven't yet done the NWTA. So Boysen says now it's over 1,000. So I have to continually update my numbers in my head. And about 20% of the men who do the men's work 3 week introduction immediately sign up for a New Warrior training adventure. That was sort of pre-COVID when we were doing NWTAs. And what the follow on from that is we don't have a metric yet for the sort of the long tail of signing up for NWTAs. We sort of look at that from an immediate standpoint. So it was designed, Crossroads was designed for those men coming out of the 3 week introduction. So really, David said this is the first in a series. It's really the second in a series. Yeah. We've begun to build this as a series. And so while I've got a lot of appreciation for the men who participated in the alpha and gave us feedback and saw all the sausage or some remnants of sausage still getting picked up, it's for the men who haven't yet done an NWTA. And I'll let Michael talk a little bit about that, because he's getting the first taste of leading Crossroads with a group of men who haven't yet done the NWTA. So the intended audience for that. And so as one of my roles that I hold in MKP is National NWTA Enrollment Support, that's sort of morphed into National Enrollment Support, including online and offline trainings. And I've been working with the enrollment coordinators in your areas, your area stewards, some of you directly, to begin to develop an enrollment plan for 2021, where we're inviting men into the open online circles, into the men's 3 week, as well as to Crossroads. And that is our enrollment offering that will give us the runway that we need, that 6 months, 8 months from now, when we are able to start doing NWTAs again, late summer, maybe fall, whenever that happens, that we will have a pool of men who are engaged and interested, because I've always been jealous of France. France puts out the call for an NWTA, and it fills double NWTAs, so 2 trainings run simultaneously on the same site fill in a matter of hours. And so I've always been jealous of that kind of response. And so our hope is to continue to build a pool of men who are engaged and interested, and they're in the work with us. And when they know it's their time, they raise their hand and they sign up for our local NWTAs. So Michael, why don't you share a little bit more on structure and your experience with new men?
You know, David, I'm aware that back in the day, stories of the 3 original founders and where they met in the kitchen and who said what when, that can't, that there's no way for that to get fact checked. But here we are in 2020, and this is this is the email from David Kaar, which I have appropriated. And so the big, that's the essence. The biggest type there is the essence of what David put out on April 25th. And I'm amazed. I appreciate the foresight that he had in April to say, we might be in this for a bit. What are we going to do? So David, thank you for putting that email together, for listening to Bryan, for coming out of retirement and saying, yeah, that looks like something I shouldn't do. Where do I go? So thank you. So we had a lot of ideas about where to go, what to do, and one of the themes that we came in with and had to separate from was that this was not going to be a New Warrior training adventure. It may have aspects of it, it may reflect it in some ways, but we weren't looking to replicate an NWTA online. So it was a bit of a mind tweak for, I think, everybody on the design team to get on a track where we were going to create something that was appropriate for these men coming out of the 3-week intro and not be a peak. Hey, here's what the training adventure is. Something entirely different. So Matt's going to talk about the core focus in it, but when we designed it, we kind of got into this horizontal, vertical design, and then we started color coding a bit, which helped us. And what we came upon was, let's do a multi-week something, and somewhere in there, 6 weeks seemed like a number that could work for what we were doing. And then we kept moving with it, and then we would come up with this. These are the actual the notes from the Jamboard that we used. And you see, there's a lot of overlap with what we talk about in MKP and stuff that's in the men's work intro. We also were pushing in some other directions and said, let's split it up. Let's do a couple nights a week. And that boiled down. And I think that this slide here probably encapsulates the CROSSROADS as well as anything. The 6 green Post-it notes there would be the 6 2.5-hour sessions, which have about 10 components in them with check-ins, breakout rooms, major themes each week. And the intent was, hey, we provide this, and then on a second night of the week, the participants will meet for an hour and 15 minutes. They'll be in teams of 4. They'll get intimately connected, and they'll address a behavioral change and hopefully lead to maybe what this next step would be, possibly an ordealish type training, but to be determined. So as was mentioned earlier, we started last week with the beta version, which has 17 men total in it. And it's pretty interesting to feel it working with the men that it was designed for. And one of my takeaways is there are a lot of men struggling for connection. They're lonely, they're lost, and I'm glad we're doing this. It was a great investment of summer vacation for me. Matt, you got a...
Yeah, it's the story is always, what did Michael and Matt do on their summer vacation? We spent a bunch of time working on a really great training. and my emphasis was on that this training is not for you, but I want to add back in that the hope is that we will be able to sometime in 2021 begin to offer Crossroads for new warriors. So it's a valuable training for any man, and so we want to do that. And there'll be some there's some language changes that will jargon that we can get to use that we can't use today, and other pieces that we may be able to add in. The essence of it will be the same. So the hope is that we will do it for new warriors. And the kernel of where that final piece that Michael showed you came from was from an author named Stephen Pressfield. And you might not know some of his writing. Some of it you may be really familiar with. Probably the most recognizable piece that he has is he wrote the book, The Legend of Bagger Vance, that became the movie with the golf movie with Will Smith. So if you don't know Pressfield, you may know that piece and not know it was his work. But what we picked up on was a book called Do the Work. And so I'm gonna chat this in for everybody so you can have that if you want to click on the link to check the book out. But the book Do the Work is super short, thin, and the essence of it is the concept of resistance that Pressfield developed. And he says that anytime we begin to try and improve ourselves, resistance comes online and begins to block us, and that there's a dance that has to go on, and we have to confront that resistance sometimes every day. So if you've ever tried to lose 10 pounds and not succeeded, you've met and been beaten by the resistance. And I certainly have been beaten more than one time. And so we began to unpack this concept of resistance. And that's the reason that we ask men to make a change in their life. Not so much that we want them to succeed at making that change. It's not that we don't want it, but we are asking them to make that change to provoke the resistance. Much like we ask men to show up at a specific time, to bring food for 6 men. As the man who stands on the wall sometimes, I don't really care whether they bring food or whether they show up on time, but it gives us an avenue to teach accountability, because we know that their resistance, their inability to be accountable may show up and give us a great teaching opportunity. And so like that, we ask them to make a change so that we can provoke the resistance. And as we began to look at resistance, we identified what we think are 5 pieces of resistance. So resistance with a capital R is made up of negative emotions: fear, shame, self-loathing. It's made up of our own personal shadows. So the parts of ourselves that we hide, repress, and deny. It's made up of our beliefs about how the world works and doesn't work. It's made up of our collective shadows, so the collective unconscious in our society. And then it's also made up of oppression. So any oppression that a man has felt in his life helps contribute to the resistance that he might feel, that might come up in him. And so those are the 5 elements of resistance: negative emotions, personal shadows, beliefs about the world, collective shadows, and oppression. And with that, so thanks, Michael. Thanks for popping that up. So that's a slide that we use in the training to show men what that looks like. And And that forms the basis of the training, is that we're then unpacking and helping men confront the resistance. Because the quote from Pressfield that drives the training forward is that most of us have two lives: the life we live and our unlived life. And between the two stands resistance. So we're asking men to live into their unlived life. And that's what the Crossroads training really is all about. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I'm noticing the faces in the room, and a number of those that have participated on some level, from the Alpha, some who are involved right now, and you and I and David have been going one way. So I wanted to give everybody a chance to stretch or check in, and if there are any questions, comments from men that want to out themselves as participants or facilitators. Frank?
Yeah, that was a great summary, Matt. And interesting, you know, the way with this starts is that you do an interview with one of the leaders, and I did that with Michael, but when we got into it, I switched to something else, which felt more manageable in the context of it. And it was interesting that you picked 10 pounds, because I've now lost over 20 pounds, and I'm walking a marathon every week. So thank you very much. And I mean, my view is that this is a training that's any man should do, you know, new warrior or not. It's fantastic. So I was resistant at the beginning. I sort of felt, come with your beginner mind. That was hard, but once we got into it, it was very productive. So thank you both.
Congratulations, Frank. Glad to hear you turned that corner.
Michael, I was only on the first or second, I think, class. And I was sad that my circumstances changed and I wasn't able to keep the commitment. But I'm glad to be here tonight, and good luck. And I think it's a great thing, man. I'd like to be able to do it when it comes back around.
Yeah. How'd your move go, Jim?
So I didn't have to move. There were other things that took place, right? But I just wasn't able to honor the commitment.
You honored the previous commitments, didn't you?
Yeah, I work on it. You know, I do the best I can, brother, right?
Thanks, Jim. Good to see you again.
I speak to different men who are interested in what we do. And I was wondering, and so a lot of times I'll direct those men currently to the men's work. And I was wondering if there are any thoughts around directing a man first into the Crossroads, if there's some sort of guideline as to when that might be appropriate or not appropriate.
So who's on point for the getting the men into the men's work? As you know, Frank said, any man could do it and step in. Coming in off the street, I'd say I'd rather have a man know what a check-in is, know what some primary feelings are, know what it's like to be in a group or a circle before he shows up into a 6-week intensive change-provoking program.
So if a man had done another men's program, that might be a
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
if he's been sitting in circle, you know, pre-COVID, and now he's in an online circle, or he was and now he's not. Great opportunity to step in.
to jump ahead. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, we designed it wanting them to have what they would get in the 3-week men's work introduction. But there's other places you can get that. But we're assuming that kind of I statements, feelings, check in, understand what a container is, confidentiality, that, you know, they've seen all that. But wherever they've seen it is fine.
All right, cool. That's helpful. Thank you.
This is Boysen. I'll just endorse everything that was just said. It's which guy is it? Is it the guy who's never been there before? Okay, here's your direction.
Yeah.
Is it the guy that's been there before? Here's your direction.
Question for any of you, actually. What do you anticipate or hope the frequency of these, and do you anticipate bringing in more facilitators or you have trainings for more facilitators to support that?
I'll take a crack at that. So we were just talking this morning, and I put out that my goal is to see us offering 10 cohorts a month of the men's 3-week introduction. We'll move from, as we've done, from 4 to 5 and 5 to
Right.
6, and continue to grow. And so, we'll continue to offer, one or two crossroads as we're able. We're still wrestling with scheduling.
Yeah.
It's a 6-week, so and it's 2 nights a week. So there's just challenges of making sure that we have facilitators who can fill both of those nights. And so really demand will drive it. And yes, Michael has, how many guys in your team weren't part of the Alpha?
We're not.
Yeah.
One man was, one team facilitator, 3 were not.
And then the one I'm going to lead in, the Crossroads I'll lead in January. None of the men were part of the original Alpha version, so that will be again 4 new men stepping into that facilitation role. One of the discussions that wanting to have is that men step into online facilitation, and that includes supporting the open online men's circles. It's being 3 facilitators for the men's 3-week introduction. It's Crossroads, so not just picking and choosing and saying, oh well, Crossroads sounds really exciting and new, I want to do that. It's really bringing the culture of, I support online facilitation. Where can I lend my gifts and my talents that we need it right now? Because we really need facilitators in all of those places. So as we're able, let's support all of those, not just one.
Yeah. So Matt, I think the way I see it is the men's work is a foundation. I know I'm on Michael's team for this current Crossroads, and I wasn't on the original Alpha team, but I do think anybody with some facilitation skills, Michael's been great, just kind of mentoring all of us and giving us great support with the protocols. So with that kind of background, I think most who have facilitated on weekends could jump in and do okay without any training. But what I find with the Crossroads, the next step is, we call it name your commitment, but it's discover your calling and discover what gets in the way of you facilitating that calling. And so for me, it's facilitating men to just really hone in on what is that heart's desire and identify the resistance. And I love the verbiage, because resistance doesn't have as much mystique as shadow, and men can start to name it. And just last night when we went to the small groups, and I think that's where a lot of the real work is done, in those small groups and teams. It's developing a real rapport and trust, because on the first night, I think I said, how many men don't trust men? Every man's hand went up. So by the end of this 6-week cycle, I will guarantee you they trust men. And so the next step will be either a lengthened program online or the training. And I want to really honor Michael Pierce for leading this thing, which it's new for all of us, in a way where I told him his greatest compliment. He leads with a really loose grip, but done a great job, Michael. Thank you.
So I'm out here in Portland in the Northwest area. And my question is around something that I've encountered in a couple of different contexts. I've heard Crossroads used in what we had as a circle of men, which was a day training for non-initiated men. I've also heard it as a particular process inside of, I believe it was LT2 training. So I'm curious, first, if this name Crossroads is related to that process or those processes, and second, what's going to differentiate it, or what we would then call those processes in order to be clear. Because for me, my brain works really well with one thing. Calling two different things Crossroads is going to throw me off.
Yeah, great question, Arlo. And yes, the men of the Northwest will know from the Circle of Men protocol that the Crossroads process is used there. But it's a little bit like saying, I don't understand a hammer because it's getting used in different contexts. It's still a hammer. Yes, LT2 does a Crossroads process, and Circle of Men does a Crossroads process. And we use the Crossroads process is the fundamental, or the sort of the peak experience of this training. But it also represents a man being at a crossroads in his life. Does he choose to go forward and live his unlived life or not? And we specifically referenced the Crossroads process as it's laid out in the Circle of Men protocol, because that's designed for men who haven't yet done the NWTA. So when I facilitate as an LT2 leader trainer with men who have done the NWTA, I'm facilitating in a different style than I would in the Crossroads training. So it's really how we're using the tool, but you are picking up right that it's the same tool. Anything to add to that, Michael?
Yeah, I've have so appreciated the Circle of Men, and within that the Crossroads process, and yeah, it's probably about 80% of what you've experienced with the Circle of Men out of the Northwest. Dan McKee and Darrell Broadhouse and Needham, can't think of his name. Anyway, yeah, very similar, but also geared towards where these men are in that unlived life. So the language is really wrapped around this training with some of the same elements.
And also different in that it's facilitated in group. So it's a group online Crossroads process that's facilitated. So a set of skills that we're sort of cobbling stuff together and learning as we go, because none of us I certainly wasn't facilitating group online Crossroads processes prior to this training. So we're all learning and honing our skills as we go.
Yeah, checking in. I'd like to be a facilitator. How would I go about doing that?
Part of it is sending me or Michael an email, and we'll put you on the list of men who say they want to be a facilitator. There's about coming up towards 30 men on that list right now. And you would begin as a team facilitator. So there's a group of 3 men who are team facilitators, 1 man who is a co-facilitator who also works with a team, and then the lead facilitator. In this case, in this current version that's running, Michael is the lead facilitator, Bryan Gast is the co-facilitator, and Vincenzo, Robert Dan, and help me, Michael.
Michael Bilkis and Jerry Hamilton
are serving as the team facilitators. So that's how that would begin, Michael. I'm sorry, Tim.
Okay, could you post your email address so I can check in with you?
I just put mine in the chat.
I'll add mine in there as well.
Super, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Good to see you.
And Tim's question applies to each of you who might be interested in being a team facilitator.
Yeah, I want to mention, in addition to Daryl Grothouse and Dan McKee, Scott Nybor is the third architect of the CROSSROADS training, which was originally designed in, or Circle of Men, which was designed in 2009. It's a great tool to introduce men that have not done the training adventure to what it's about, and what it's like to connect with men.
Yeah. And Vincenzo just privately messaged me a question of like asking any reason we can't have 2 concurrent CROSSROADS running both on Monday and Wednesday nights. No, there's not a reason that we can't. But as we schedule and try and fill online trainings, we've been really cautious about cannibalizing the trainings and not wanting to run, 2 trainings, one that has, 6 guys and one that has 7 guys. We want to run, 13 or a full training of 16 guys in one training. So until we build up the demand, we're cautious about scheduling trainings too close together and having neither of them succeed financially. Because in and amongst all of this service, we also have a financial component and a responsibility to being sustainable that we have to keep in mind. So by way of example, we ran 3 in-person ST1s this year, and we ran like 9 online, and then we had 2 at the very end that failed, that didn't get enough registrations. And so we exhausted the demand for ST1. And so we're always trying to balance that with demand.
Well, thanks, Matt and Michael, and I'm incredibly grateful for all they've contributed. And we have the CROSSROADS because of their commitment and their hard work. So thank you. I wanted to take a minute to just sort of step back and notice what all this has meant. Matt shared with you what's in the thing. You notice that none of those things were processes from the NWTA. Some of those things were things you recognized, some weren't. We have a wealth and depth of material to teach men, and men are really eager for it. They're eager for what MKP has to offer. And we can package that in new ways, offering new trainings. And I think we want to do that. We designed this one because we originally wanted to design something in lieu of the warrior training. We realized that was too big a jump to go from the men's work introduction to something as challenging as the warrior training, especially since we can't take their car keys away from them the way we can on a weekend. So CROSSROADS is a really think of it as the first half or the first chunk of a warrior-like training to get them up to speed and get them to teach a lot of what we do teach on a warrior training, but not all of it. What's coming is the next training we're working on. We're going to start designing the first of the year is called Ordeal. And that will be something that will be, we hope, as challenging and as deep as the warrior training. It'll be structured like CROSSROADS over 6, 8, 9 weeks with weekly meetings, large group and small team meetings, and focusing probably a little more on in-depth process work. And then we hope to build trainings beyond that, which will actually take men beyond where the warrior training takes them. And a year ago, we were doing warrior trainings. We were doing some online stuff thanks to Boysen, but Boysen was kind of doing it single-handedly. And the warrior training provided 80% of our income. And beginning in March, that collapsed. So the last 6-9 months have seen MKP pivot to offering what we have to offer and serving men through online means. And I believe we're going to continue to do that even when we can do the warrior training again. I mean, we all want to do the warrior training again. And many of these men will come and do that, who've done these other things. But we can continue to offer trainings online. And I think it's opened eyes and open doors and open windows for the growth of the Mankind Project in a whole new realm that we always could have done it. We just never really had a reason to until COVID. So that's those are the plans, and they're working on them.
Hey guys, just a quick peek there. That's a word cloud that got created last night. The resistance that the 17 participants have brought
Cool.
to the to this version of the CROSSROADS.
And what Michael didn't say is that this was built in real time during the training last night. So each man was asked to name his resistance, and those what he said was written down, and then the Zoom host built this word cloud, and it was then presented back for them to see, and is an artifact of what went on in real time. So just another use of technology to facilitate men seeing their resistance, their shadows, what's standing between them and the life that they want to lead.
I'll jump in for just a moment. First of all, I wasn't alone, David. Matt Kelly also helped write the 3-week course, along with John Levitt, Dan Baldwin, all of the men who stepped in early on to help facilitate the men's work and carry it and make it into what it is now. And who's wrapping us up tonight? Who's taking us home, Paul?
That would be me. My turn to wrap us up, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. First, let me share with you some logistics. The next 3 meetings that we'll be presenting from MKP around what's going on inside the Chairs Front Porch. The next Chairs Front Porch is the Tuesday on the 1st of December. And that front porch will be differently abled warriors, and we're pretty excited about that. The next, I'm not going to do this in sequence because the third one I want to share a little bit more depth. The next town hall will be on Thursday, on the 10th of December, and it's called Black Lives in MKP. And it's an announcement of the declaration that we're putting together for that. So that's that piece. And then the MKP annual meeting, which is always the first Saturday of December, where we elect the new officers, the chair-elect chair. And then in this year, we have the secretary up for that. The other thing that we've added is some reflection time. So we'll have some past chairs that will be doing some reflecting. Ed, who has been the immediate past chair for the last 2 years, will be stepping back and doing some reflection. And then I, as the chair for the last 2 years, will be doing some reflection as well. In the past, we've had that, and looking forward as part of what we've done, we've decided this year to, in January, Bryan, who will be the next chair, will be leading that particular meeting to, oh, sorry about that, to share with us what's next. So I'm excited about what's happening in all of those ways, and looking forward to having you be there as well. I want to close with gratitude and a sense of awe in how we've focused with, and this program demonstrates the agility, the lack of resistance in the leadership all throughout the project. Michael and Matt and the others in this room who rolled up their sleeves and didn't lean in, you stepped in at a time when this organization could have gone in another direction. So much gratitude for all of you in here that make up some of those 28 names, I think I counted that right, to put this program together. And there's been several others that have been coming forward. I want to especially thank Bryan and David, who I can only imagine and participated a little bit on those early conversations on what do we do and how do we do it. And Bryan, thanks for bringing that forward. And David, thanks for putting your suits on and putting your energy in it that always forces us to never say no. And you have been so valuable in this project for at least 35 years that I'm aware of. And there isn't a chair that hasn't benefited from your ability to either stand in front, stand behind, or stand around a chair while they've been in this role. And for me, I want to just let everybody know how grateful I have been to have you in my life for the last 3 years. So thank you for that. With that, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And I'm grateful that the resistance that is available in so many people that I see, Michael, I have that experience on a regular basis to see the people who are afraid, the people who are confused and lost and lonely. We don't represent that. We have that, I'm sure, in ourselves, but we have the strength from what we've been able to do together to see past that. So thanks, men, for everything you're giving to the project. And we'll close with that.